This is Matt Singer. I'm the Arts and Culture Editor at Willamette Week, and my guest today is Chris Nesseth. He is a Portland-based freelance photographer who does some work for Willamette Week, but he is also putting out a book here soon. And Chris, maybe you can kind of just quickly give the synopsis of what this book is about.
Yeah, so the book is called Blistered Feet. It's a photo book. So my sister and her fiance, they are walking across America, and they're walking across America for a charity called Time in a Bottle that cleans homes for children with cancer. I thought this would be a great opportunity to meet up with them. And so I did. I met up with them in Albuquerque, and I walked 300 miles to Amarillo, and I took photos along the way, and I put it all into a book.
Wow. So I guess how did this really start for your sister then? You say it's a charity thing, but I mean, why walking?
Yeah. So Matt and Grace, they wanted to go on adventure, so they were sort of just researching what sort of adventure they could go on. And Matt had just read a book about someone who had walked a great distance. I can't remember if it was America or somewhere else. And they thought, let's do that. So they made the plan. And then my mom, she's the one who actually has this charity called Time in a Bottle. So that they thought it'd be great to put it together. They could walk and do this great feat and hopefully learn some things along the way, and then and make some money for the charity.
What kind of prep goes into something like this?
Oh my gosh. So they were just doing as much research as you can, obviously watching all sorts of videos. But they bought themselves a cart. They actually call the cart Timmy for some reason. And they store everything that they own in it, and they push it. So they just have a tent, some supplies, something to boil water, and that's it. I think really the prep work, besides the research on gear and where to go, mapping it all out, was they just every day would walk as far as they could.
And then it sounds like if they have a tent and stuff on them, they're setting up where they can. They're not staying in hotels or anything like that.
Exactly. So they do a little bit a mixture of both. So when I was on the journey, we would do maybe 4 or 5 day stretches camping. And sort of the interesting thing is when you're walking, you don't know if there's no hotel or no town to go to, you don't know where you're going to camp. So you're always looking for public land. Occasionally you have to kind of be sneaky and jump onto private land and just and camp wherever you can find. So sometimes a 15-mile day turns into a 25-mile day, just finding a place to camp. But it's a mixture of both.
Jeez. So when you joined up with them, how long had they been going at that point?
So I just had asked them. They were at about 900 to 1,000 miles. I can't remember the time period. It's got to be a couple months. So they haven't gone about a third, I guess, by the time I saw them.
Wow. So where were they at, sort of mentally and physically at that point? It must be kind of interesting to join somebody already pretty deep into a kind of adventure like this.
Exactly. That was my number one fear, is to join them and somehow drag them down, or but they're two of the most positive people I've ever met. So they one, were excited to have me, and two, just have some company, because it's just been them two, especially with the pandemic and walking in the middle of nowhere. You don't see that many people. So they seem excited, though I admit they helped me a ton. It would have been very difficult to do it without the experience that they had gained up to that point.
Right. So what was it like for you? I mean, do you have are you a big hiker or outdoors person at all?
Yeah, I am not a big hiker or outdoors person. I would say in my own head, I felt I could do it because my hobby is to walk. I walk 10 plus miles all the time with my camera downtown. So I thought this would be no problem. So I kind of went, I could have been more prepared to say the least, but I was able to do after about a week. I felt like I was into it and everything felt normal. But my pack was too heavy. My socks were too thick. I got this blister. I had to be this big. It was, yeah. And I was limping, but no, that's kind of made the journey a little bit better because I was able to power through and get it done.
So are you able to meet a lot of people along the way doing something like this, or is it like every day you're just trying to get from point A to point B and take that next rest, as soon as possible? I mean, do you have time for it to actually like have human interactions?
Yeah, so I mean, with COVID, it makes things a little more difficult. But Matt and Grace, and especially with the charity, the goal is to get the word out as much as possible. So they've got a big sign that says what they're doing, and people would come up to us and ask what's going on. But just being in the middle of nowhere, especially where my part of the journey was, we didn't actually meet that many people. So it was few and far between.
Wow. So you were talking about how it seems like the big thing every day is just figuring out where to set up camp and where to stop. What were some of the more interesting places that you ended up kind of stopping at during this journey?
One that comes up, there's a couple that come into my mind right away. I know there was one that was, we at the beginning of the day, Matt, he's in charge of the map. He'll tell us, hey, 15 miles today. And in my head, I'm like, oh, 15 miles, that's easy. But it's always more. So I'm like limping along at like, I don't know, 22, 23 miles. And we get to this, we can't find anywhere to camp. And so we decide that the best way to stealth camp so we don't get, caught was under this bridge there's cars going by. There was a train like 50 feet away. And so that was interesting just because it was loud and you have to be quiet and you have to have your flashlight off. There was another one where we hopped this fence, and then once we get our tent set up, there had to be like 40 cows, and there was a baby cow, and there was one with big horns. And I don't know anything about cows, so I was afraid. I was like, they're gonna protect that baby and we're done for. And yeah, so that was sort of an interesting one. But every day seemed, it was a little different. Yeah, it was fun.
I mean, are there moments of like fear, I guess, doing something like this? I mean, just kind of staying wherever. I mean, there's a lot that's left up to chance, I would imagine. I mean, did you ever feel like, man, this is maybe a little bit sketchy?
Yeah, a few times for sure. Just because when you're in somebody else's land, people like to protect it. So we don't. You're trying to be quiet. And you just, it's the confrontation that you're scared of, or the unknown. One of the more scary things really is just having to walk on the highway. Because we try to take back roads if you can, but every once in a while you just have to walk the interstate, not even the highway, and semis going by, and that is more of the like, please stay in your lane. That's that was more of the fear was on the interstate for sure.
Right. So the book is when does this book come out? What's the title? And sort of just get the basic stuff.
Yeah.
I think you said the title already, but what's the basic stuff that people should know about the book?
Yeah, so the book is called Blistered Feet. It has 100 color photographs in it. It'll be 8.5 by 11s. And it's just one page of text and 100 photos. So the whole thing is just what I saw along the way. There's obviously photos of the camping and Matt and Grace, but a lot of it's just old Route 66 with old cars and buildings. I find it interesting on Route 66. A lot of the places that we came across that were abandoned, they look like they had been abandoned in an instant. Like the books were left and cars were still up on repair places, and so it was like a shot of time, a snapshot that we were able to see. So the book is just a lot of those snapshots of what I saw.